Hi everyone, my name is Robert Schmid, Deloitte Digital's Chief IoT Technologist, also known as Mr. IoT. This week on Coffee with Mr. IoT, it's Rachel and I, and we're gonna talk about past shows and future shows, and just keep it between you and I for once. How are you doing,
And
Rachel,
what's
today?
just going on? We get a chance just to talk, Robert. This is awesome. Normally we're like, can we talk more? Can we talk more? No, let's let the guests. And now it's our chance to shine.
You
So
know,
let's
that was
hope
your idea, right? You said this to me once. You said we should just do a show between you and I so that we'd only interrupt each other rather than our guests.
that. Well, that's today. So folks, you're excited. I'm excited. It's going to be a good show. And Robert, you know, as we look back, we've done a lot of these. How many shows have we done?
I counted 12. I was
Oh,
actually hoping it's 13 because then I could have said, oh, it's show 13, and we didn't want to jinx it, so we didn't have any guests for that. But actually, it's our 12th show we've done. I think you joined the third show. I don't know. Remember the first show you were on?
I do. I was in California, and it was after the IoT World Conference, and you were grilling me on what's going on in IoT and life sciences.
So what is going on in IoT and life sciences?
Man, it's cool. So since I don't know, 10 episodes ago, so what, 10 weeks ago, 12 weeks ago, we have gotten so many requests that it's insane. So where I thought the projects would go, they're going, but then new places are popping up and new innovative ways to use it. Value-based care is taking a big front seat. So real-world evidence and leveraging some of the sensors to drive that tangible, objective evidence and drive payments and costs.
Payments
I
of what? Payments me paying the doctor or the doctor
Yeah,
getting paid
the
by the
plans.
provider or
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, so it's getting reimbursed, plan reimbursement. So in other words, how much a plan determines a treatment is worth can be driven based on how much value you're providing to the patient. So if you're able to show that you're going to be able to fix them and heal them, and they don't have any other like down the road costs, then a plan's going to be incentivized to pay more, reimburse more for that treatment. So
That's really
um,
interesting when you start putting value on health. Isn't that a
yeah.
very personal question, how much that's worth to you?
Hey, in the US, it's a business, man. I mean, there's no altruism in health plans. And if anyone disagrees, feel free to join the show and we'll duke it out. But no, it's a business and they're trying to figure out how to make the most money. So the pharmaceutical and med device companies are getting smart to this, and they obviously want to be able to charge as much as possible for their treatments. So yeah, so IoT is going to come save the day. So that's a cool area. I think that, you know, I think there's gonna be more unexpected areas that pop up as people get more comfortable with it. But yeah, I would say that's what's cool and exciting in healthcare and life sciences these days.
Listen, listen. Rachel said it on Coffee with Mr. IoT. IoT's gonna save the day.
Isn't that appropriate for this show? I feel like that makes you Superman instead of Mr. OT. But
You do know that I have this, you know, I get asked here and there to speak at different things, right? And I have a fairly business-like speak where I talk about use cases and value and so forth. And then I have this portion that I add and I squeeze it or extend it. I call it the human side of IoT. You might have seen it as Live Works. I love this guy. There's this dude I have as a background, and he just has this really gritty, had a long life, had a hard life, but he has this big smile on his face. But in any case, so I talk about the human side of IoT. I talk about how self-driving cars with all its sensors gonna save 1 million lives a year. How I heard this fascinating story. I was at we call it a greenhouse, you know that, but we have these sessions we do for clients or potential clients where we take them through a one-day ideation session where really we bring together different people from different departments within a company typically, and we take them out of their usual environment and brainstorm and ideate on different topics. So last week I was at one of those about, and IoT was a big topic, and I had a conversation with one person, and you know what he told me? He told me that whenever I hear drones, I smile. And so he talked about drones with a camera flying over agriculture and taking pictures of individual plants and analyzing and then creating a pesticide plan, not spray 5% X or do this, but on this plant you need this much, on this plant you need nothing, on the next plant you need nothing, but here you need to put something. And so imagine what that could be, you know? And so imagine how you could create more food through IoT and those sensors. And this was one of the very early drone examples with cameras that I really, really liked.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I smiled.
Also from a preservation perspective, I could see that being really powerful too, just to see, you know, where certain rare things are growing and populating, whether it's animals, plants, whatever. So that's pretty cool. I like that example.
But the thing that cracked me up was he said to me, it's not a good thing for us because they're going to use X% less of chemicals to do that. And so my immediate jumping point was to go to say, well, maybe instead of selling chemicals, you sell keeping plants alive and having a service on this. And then you get to put the saving into your pocket around the chemicals, and you actually give the farmer, whoever wanted the plant being healthy, right? That's much more important to me than buying pesticides cheaper. So it's like this continuous jump to anything as a service that we often talk about, which is really so possible with IoT.
So I think that's
for a second,
what's that?
No, go ahead. What are we going to say?
I was going to say, I think it's interesting how you bring up new business opportunities and businesses that never existed before. So outsourcing your pesticide services and having better outcomes creates a whole new outsourced service. What do you think? What's your thoughts? Speaking of new interesting things, what's your thoughts on Pokemon Go? Are you a fan? Are you playing?
I loaded it, and I think I loaded it when I was in Chicago last week, and I walked around with the thing in my hand, and I just like swiped, and then I realized I couldn't see where I was going, so I stopped and I didn't pick it back up. The thing that's so fascinating about this, so, you know, for me, this is just an awesome, awesome way for many people to get their first experience with augmented reality. And, you know, we often talk about augmented reality specifically in the context of predictive maintenance and field service. So when I was at the conference a couple months ago, you know, they took, you know, there's two things to that, right? First of all, now everybody knows how augmented reality looks on a phone. We all thought augmented reality or virtual reality will come through goggles, right? Google Glass or Oculus Rift or one of those. And now we have it in our hand, on our iPad, on our phone. So that's a big shift, and I think it's great. And I've seen the same in the business world, right, where you hold an iPad in front of a machine, and there is an image of the machine, a video, and then while you look at that video, it overlays it with pictures of, here is red, you got to start with that, take that apart, and then look where this is, and has like real instructions on it. So since there's so much accessibility to tablets, you know, that's another great use of it, where you can actually overlay in real time stuff.
Yeah,
so I think it'll be great. It'll really raise awareness. I have to smile about it because, you know, as you know, I worked for a gaming company for a long, long time. I was at Activision, and so I'm sitting here, you know, I just have this image. I remember being there, and when these things happened, you know, all the powers to be would get in a room and then talk about it. And, you know, I'm just curious what goes on behind Activision closed doors right now, what they're thinking about it, and, you know.
See, I'm less excited by that. I'm more excited by the guys that are sitting in banking or insurance or in the health systems and going, all right, this is possible now. What does this mean to us? I think something so popular in the consumer world is going to naturally bleed into every other industry just because of visibility and awareness. And the fact that, like you said, now everyone has a taste of it. It's not something weird and foreign and sci-fi. It's everyone, you're walking around the park seeing all these idiots climb up trees and get lost. And I think I was driving in Utah this week, and they had a huge sign over the highway saying, please drive safe now, Pokemon can wait. But I think it's infiltrated every bit of our society, which is, I think it's new and exciting and great. And hopefully it bleeds itself into other areas, especially, you know, my passion of healthcare and life sciences. I think, you know, a surgeon being able to overlay just what you said a human body and get real-time stats to be able to understand that something's going to be wrong and predict that before it does and be more successful in their outcomes. I think who doesn't want that? I mean, it's going to help us all stay healthier and be safer. So
I think the interesting part too is if you think about it, Pokemon Go, the platform and the framework had existed for 5 years. You probably know this, but right, this was made in part by a company called Niantic, and
Yep.
they are actually a spin-off from Google. So within Google, Google, they formed this group in Niantic, and I might get this somewhat wrong, but timing-wise, but they created this game called Ingress. So Ingress has been around for 4 or 5 years, and it's basically a very similar game. But it's not quite as appealing because it didn't have that little spin they did by taking Pokemons and making it really fun made a difference. And so I think the part that I always wonder is, and whenever I do work in terms of applications, I always try to bring in a little bit of a fun factor. There's this, we call it gamification, right? And I think there's something about gamifying even things within the enterprise to really make it sticky and make us go back. If it gets too hard, we don't touch it. We are just really, really spoiled with great consumer applications. And now the enterprise has to catch up with the consumer rather than the other way around.
You bring up a really good point, though. It's not the technology necessarily, because I think we've been hammering that almost every week. The technology's there. It's not future. It's like right now. But I think the user experience is such a critical aspect of making this practical and really satisfying the use cases. And I don't think we've really actually drilled into that too much, which is, so what? We've got the technology. Why isn't it everywhere? And to your point, we're spoiled. We want it to be simple. We don't want to have to think of something new and learn something and learn new technology. We want it to be natural. We want it to be a natural progression of stuff we already know and can understand. So the example you used of an iPad or an iPhone as opposed to a crazy new goggles that you have to learn to control, well, we live on our phones. We know how to use them. So if you can bring it and make it possible through our existing comfort level, I think the rate of adoption is gonna skyrocket. So what do you think? Have you seen that with your clients as well?
Well, I have to first say that you've called me crazy twice now. You said the guy with the crazy goggles and the people climbing trees, and knowing that I do both.
You were not climbing trees looking for Pokemon. You were not one of those. I don't believe it for 1 second.
I was wearing goggles. I had Google Glass for a long time, and I still like it a lot. I think that's going to come back. But in any case, I just think it's funny how it's a matter of perspective of that. I think there's sort of like, I hear what you're saying. By the way, I just want to say, if you're just joining us, I'm Robert Schmid, Deloitte Digital Chief IoT Technologist, and you're watching Coffee with Mr. IoT. Today, it's Rachel Mohrmann and I, and we're just talking about past shows and upcoming shows and what's going on today. With that, what do I think about this? Yeah, I see that too, right? And yet there is resistance, right? There's just there's this idea that you have to be professional in a work environment. So putting a Pokemon on the corner and making it fun always falls in some resistance. So it's an interesting time.
You know who I see picking it up right now actually is the school systems are looking at using wearables and virtual reality and augmented reality for the sake of learning and for the sake of health. So, you mentioned gamification. Well, everyone finds it acceptable for children to learn through gamification, to be motivated to exercise through gamification. And yet, as you mentioned, you're absolutely correct. As soon as we become adults, and I say that in quotes because I don't believe I am yet, it's not accepted anymore. So why that is, I don't know, but I see the huge pickup. There's huge ordering pickups for wearables within the school system, and there's a lot of companies popping up, new businesses just focused on using augmented reality and wearables to motivate kids. So maybe they'll help us. The kids are our future, right, Robert? I
thought we were still kids, you said.
Well, yeah, but I don't want to be part of the future, so that's too much responsibility.
I have to say it's funny, right? Talk about being kids. I have to say, talk about memorable moments for a second and look
Yeah,
back. We were totally kids. Remember what I'm thinking of right now?
I'm guessing yes.
When I think of memorable moments, I will never forget when we talked about IoT and retail environment. And we had Tracy Canby on, and you were on. I think that was one of your early shows.
Yeah.
And then you were picking on me because I kept talking about home improvement stores and walking out with the third set of screwdrivers. And you said, why? And then I said, well, let me change it for you. Exactly. Oh, yawning. Let me change it for you. I should be told if I buy the third pair of black shoes. And you both said, what? Everybody needs 5 pairs of black shoes. And then we started pulling our feet up and showed our shoes. It
All right,
became almost a tradition. I have no shoes on today, so I'll bear you. Well, look at you. That
but
doesn't go with your upper outfit. What happened? You're such a fashion person.
no, well, actually it does. I'm a trendsetter today. No, I'm just trying to look professional with this jacket, to be honest. Dirty little secret of the show, most times I'm not dressed in professional gear, but if I throw on a blazer, I can fake it. So for all the viewers out there, I'm a fraud. But
No,
no,
you're not. You're one of the fun people we have. I love working with you.
Thanks, Robert. I like working with you too, or should I say Mr. IoT. So
I'm not going to call you Mrs. IoT anymore. I don't want to get in trouble out there because that sets the wrong example. Your husband might not be too happy about that.
So I have a question for you since it's one-on-one day. One of the questions I get all the time from colleagues, from clients, from people I meet, with small talk, they want to get more involved in IoT. They want to get basic understanding. I think that resonates a lot with a lot of people that watch our show as well. How do they get exposed? What's a good way? What's your tips and tricks?
First, I think it's all about finding a or a few use cases you're passionate about. So if you want to get involved, take something that you have passion about, learn about it, and think it through from what does IoT do in a journey. Don't think of IoT as a sensor and then start going backwards. What can I do with the data? Think the other way. Here is a problem I have, and the sensor can actually solve that in my flow and make a journey out of that. And then, I do what I recommend our clients don't do, but I do that just for me to learn. I go and get a set of tools that I can start playing with. So the other day I talked to a company, they just released a product. It's a little wireless hub. It had a bunch of sensors that looked like cookies, and I started sticking them around the house and trying to figure out how can that help me. I was fascinated.
Okay, let me pause you for a second there. So a lot of people might think, well, that's really expensive, and I've got nephews that I've purchased a lot of these kits for, and they're really not, right? I mean, the costs have come down, beacons, sensors, everything under a couple bucks these days, right?
Well, with the stuff that's under a couple bucks, you start need to doing a lot of coding, right? It depends what you want to do. But I guess my point is just get your feet wet, get your hands dirty, do something, depending on what you want to do, learn about the value of it, and really start thinking of the business case and get good in terms of understanding what's out there. If you want to really get into the technology side, go pick up a platform we talk about. Go sign up for Google Cloud Platform. Go sign up for GE Predix. Go sign up for ThingWorx. All of these guys now offer you typically for free trials where you can just play with it and learn. And we want people that have shown passion and done stuff. We just talked to a guy, you might not remember, but we had him on. Will, I think is his name. He was on with us at South by Southwest, and he built the robot at home on his own time and learned how to program and so forth. And this isn't what we're gonna do. He isn't gonna build robots, potentially, most likely not for our clients, but it shows his willingness to dig in, to get his hands dirty, and actually how he can pick it up quickly. Because the other thing too is when we go to clients today, we don't have months and months and months anymore. We do these things in weeks. So for someone that can really learn quickly, that's important, and we want to see that. So get your hands dirty, get your feet in.
And it's not about having years of experience anymore, right? I mean, this technology is changing so quickly that if you have a basic understanding, I know you're going to say like basic coding skills if you're going to get on that side of it, but my argument would be that the technology is going so quick that someone who has the ability, like you said, and the passion to pick up and learn something is far more valuable than the person that has 20 years doing the same coding in their past. And that's kind of a cool, exciting place for younger practitioners in this space and people in both the consulting and the company side. They can get their hands dirty and learn really quick and kind of be an expert overnight.
Yeah, I mean, we need both, really. And, we need people that have passion and can dig in deep and fast. And we need people who have done coding for a long time. When you talk about, this is the other side of IoT that's not talked much about, but much of the processing moves to the edge. And
Yep.
so a lot of the coding has to be done in an embedded form. You got to get an Arduino or something like this, and where you put coding on it. That's hardcore coding. You really need to know what you write, because you can only write so much code. And if you write this much code, it's not going to work, right? And for that, you need good experience. So we need all. And yet, I think there is the thing I always talk about, and I've been always had good luck with, is you gotta be good technical, but in order to be good, really good technical, you also need to understand the business. And so it's this combination, bringing together tech and business, that's really what's key. And there's lots of new areas in IoT, so go look at edge computing, learn about that.
So what about, for folks that are super technologists then, and maybe they're trying to find the applicability side, the industry influence, what do you think of them heading over to some of the conferences? This is becoming such a hot topic. The conferences are popping up. Is that a good way, or what should people do to kind of balance out? If they're super techy, but they don't know what the industry is going to do with it, what would you recommend?
Conferences are great, and that's a good lead-in, because next week, quite a few of us out of the IoT practice are going to be at Predix Transform in Vegas. So if you want to come and see us, join us.
Robert?
What's that?
What's Predix? For those who see last week's show.
Who went on last week, go back and watch. We had Chris Weitz from GE with us, GE Digital. He's their chief strategy officer, I believe. In any case, he was on with us, and they've created a platform called GE Predix. They've created a whole software business, and it's really a platform that helps you ingest data in real time, large volumes, orchestrate them, create output with that, and integrate with a variety of different machines. It's really the industrial Internet of Things, as they'd like to say, so it's how they connect their airline engines with anything in the back office. So quite exciting. So we're going to go there. We're going to be there next week. It's called Predix Transform. See us and find us. We're going to have a booth. Deloitte Digital, Mahesh is going to be there. Dan Rhodes is going to be there. I'm going to be there.
Some of our past guests are going to be showing their lovely faces.
And we're going to broadcast live on Periscope. So you're going to get to tune in. Little more.
What are you excited about? What gets you excited? I mean, if you're speaking, you're kind of a badass in this space. So what gets you excited to go to these conferences?
Meeting people with ideas that come up to me and say, I thought of this, what do you think? There's this melting pot of ideas, bringing them forward. What keeps me up and gets me going every day is taking an idea and 9 people telling me why that can't be done, and then we'll find the person that we can do it with, and we'll just show them how it can be done, And, this is sort of like true for business, and it's true in my personal life. You probably know this, but I don't know, about 10 years ago, over 10 years now, I had this idea I'm going to get on a boat and sail around the world. And people looked at me and said,
"That's ridiculous, Robert. That's absolutely preposterous." But
I did it.
So IoT, enabling the impossible, making everything possible. Is that our message today?
I don't know. I think it's, talk to us and we can probably make the impossible happen. So, but yeah, I'm excited about it.
Any other new things that have you kind of jumping out of your skin, ready to go solve problems? Anything interesting, new applications you've seen?
Well, given that we have a minute, I'm gonna say let's do a whole show on new things and futuristic IoT thoughts. I'd like to really do a whole show on that, and maybe we'll bring a few forward and have a guest to talk about that too.
Yeah, I love it.
There's a bunch of exponentials out there that are going to be interesting, and we'll see what happens.
Yep. I agree. That sounds like a great plan. So stay tuned for that fun thought.
Awesome. Anything other closing thoughts from you, Rachel, before
I'm excited for Lucky 13. We're gonna find a guest that is super scientific and doesn't care about all that superstition stuff, just like myself.
Awesome.
And stay tuned for more to come from Mr. IoT, aka badass in the space, and come talk to us at Predix, right?
Come talk to us at Predix. It looks like this coffee break is coming to a close. I want to thank Rachel for yet another great conversation. And please join us next Friday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, for yet another Coffee with Mr. IoT. And by the way, if you missed any part of today's conversation, come back, watch it, watch all our episodes on my YouTube channel. And with that, bye, everyone.